Hello everyone, my name is Tony Parmenter from the First 10 Minutes podcast, with what will hopefully be the first in an ongoing series of Let's Play videos brought to you by the show. If you're interested in checking out the podcast, you can find the details in the description below. We are a games analysis podcast where we play the first 10 minutes of a video game and then sit down to discuss how well that game communicates itself to the player, both in terms of what the game is about and how to play the game. And if you're already enjoying this Let's Play video, and let's be honest, why wouldn't you be, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel below. If, however, you require a little more convincing than that, then hey, let's play Caves of Qud. So, Caves of Qud is a game developed by Freehold Games and has been available on Steam since 2015. As you can see from the copyright notice down the bottom of the screen, it has been out for quite a bit longer than that, but Steam is where we are going to be playing it today. Freehold Games are also the developers of Sproggywood, which you can find on Steam and also, I believe, on mobile. But we're not here to talk about Sproggywood today, we're here to talk about Caves of Qud. And hey Tony, you may find yourself asking, this game has a little bit of an unusual title, how do you know how to correctly pronunciate Qud? Well, I could tell you, but now I don't have to. And having fulfilled my contractual obligation to tell a dad joke, let's get started. We're going to go into a new game. So our options are, we can create a new character, we can roll a random character, we can choose a character build from our library, and there's also a bunch of things we can do with weekly and daily challenges based off of seed values. So as you can probably tell, Caves of Qud is a roguelike. Now I realize that's a little bit of a loaded term. I'm not really interested in wading into that debate. We're just here to play a cool thing, and we are going to create a new character. So the options that the game gives us are to play as a mutated human or to play as a true kin. Now, given the world setting of Caves of Qud, it's a futuristic-y, apocalyptic, kind of high fantasy / sci-fi game, very much in the vein of how I recall feeling when I played the original Fallout game, even though the setting isn't quite the same. If any of you read science fiction, then there's possibly a little bit of The Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe as an influence here, amongst a bunch of other things. I think when it comes to roguelikes as well, the first one I recall playing was a game called Hack in the early 80s, which is probably giving away my age a little too much, so let's pretend I didn't say that. Okay, so we can play as a mutated human or a true kin. True kin are kind of normal, air quotes, humans that have survived and been living in arcologies and are now venturing out into the wilds, whereas mutated humans have a whole bunch of cool things going on. That's what we're going to try today. Alrighty, so there's a bunch of primary stats that we can put points into. We have 44 points left that we can allocate, and as you can see, strength, agility, toughness, intelligence, willpower, and ego, all starting at a base value of 10 with a modifier of -3. Now, if we just put a bunch of points in here, you can see eventually that it switches from 1 point to augment to 2 points for augmentation once you get up to a certain value. Let's go through very briefly what all of these different stats do. So strength is essentially how well you can hit things with a giant stick or possibly a sharpened stick. Melee attacks, carrying capacity, etc. Agility, accuracy with melee and ranged weapons, and the ability to dodge attacks. Toughness determines hit points, how fast you regenerate hit points, and poison and disease resistances. Intelligence determines how many skill points you get every time you level up, and how well you can examine artifacts. Willpower determines frequency with which you may use your mental mutations. Also how fast you regenerate hit points, and how will you resist mental attacks. Now, on this particular character, I think I'm probably going to turn mental mutations off, so I'm not sure how applicable that one's going to be. And then lastly, we have ego. Determines the potency of mental mutations, ability to haggle with merchants, and ability to dominate the wills of other living creatures. That does sound pretty cool, but I think we're going to go with physical mutations only, just because that's an option the game gives you. So one of the main things that I'm interested in here is making a character that's pretty good at survivability. So we might stack toughness to a kind of ridiculous degree. We'll bump up our strength to a moderate amount, we'll bump up our agility to a moderate amount, and then we'll just kind of try and have these not be completely terrible. Maybe not that one. Bump that down, we'll bump that down, we'll bump that up. Possibly one more. This is always tricky, trying to figure out which ones to maneuver. Odd numbers tend to be better because they tick on evens. You know what, we might do that. And then just... that feels pretty reasonable to me. We're going to start with 24 hit points, although it may end up being more than that once we select some of our further abilities. Now, when I was mentioning earlier about only having physical mutations, that's because we are going to select the Chimera. Whoops, wrong button. We're going to select the Chimera morphotype. So we're only going to manifest physical mutations. This means that as we level up a little bit more, we are going to, if we bank enough mutation points, we're going to have the opportunity to select from one of 3, air quotes, randomly selected mutations. And having Chimera should mean that we're only going to get physical ones. I really want to try a bit of a character that's crazily skewed in one particular direction. So you can see here that all of the mental mutations and the mental defects are all crossed out now that we have selected Chimera. Let's have a look in these physical mutations. There's a whole bunch of really groovy stuff that you can have in this game. What I was thinking we might do is I'm keen to try a character that has multiple arms, and I absolutely want to have multiple legs as well. Those are both worth quite a lot of points, so you can see that it doesn't leave us with a lot of other options. However, if we go into physical defects, you can see that there are a whole bunch of things that we can select here that are going to give us some points back that we can then allocate into other things. I think the game only lets you select one. Yes, it only lets you select one at a time. So because of that, I think we might go for one that's going to give us back a whole bunch. And I do like the idea of a character with multiple arms, multiple legs, a whole bunch of extra bones, but they're really brittle bones. Because we've done that, however, we're going to get back a bunch of points. We now have 6 points remaining to reallocate. And staying in that vein of having multiple arms and working on the assumption that that's also going to mean multiple hands, what if all of those hands were freezing hands? I like where this is going. So there's only a few other options that we have left now. We could use our 1 remaining point on night vision so we can see in the dark. We could use them on slime glands so we can spit slime that's going to potentially slow things down and make them slide around, or we can pick thick fur, which is going to give us a little bump to our heat and cold resistance and a little bit of extra reputation with apes. That's right, reputation with apes is a thing that Caves of Qud cares deeply about. Night vision is nice, but we have so many arms to hold torches in. Perhaps that's not the thing to go for. And slime is cool and all, but I think we're going to go with thick fur because I just like the idea of a multiple-armed, multiple-legged, thick-furred mutant human with brittle bones running around the world. Okay. One of the closing steps that we can do here is select a calling. There are another bunch of options here: Apostle, Archanaut, Greybeard, Gunslinger, Marauder, Pilgrim, Nomad, Scholar, Tinker, Warden, Water Merchant, and Watervine Farmer. I'm keen to go with Watervine Farmer because of that extra bump to toughness. It's also going to give us some extra reputation with the villagers of Joppa. Joppa is the village that you start the game in. It also means we're going to have an axe proficiency, which is going to give us the ability to cleave armor on enemies. And we're going to start with the harvestry and skillful harvestry skills, which are going to help us be able to get a little bit of extra food for ourselves. I might just have a check and see if there are any others that stack toughness. We've got this one here, Nomad. Also gives us +2 toughness. We start with a recycling suit. 200 reputation with the Isakari tribe. It doesn't really give us any benefit with weapon types though, so we might go with Watervine Farmer. Alrighty, so here we have our character. We've got some negative modifiers on willpower and ego. We've got a bunch of neutral modifiers on strength, agility, and intelligence, and we have a ridiculously stacked toughness. That's going to give us +5, and means we start with 26 hit points. I think we're just about ready to start. There's only one thing remaining. Now, with this game being a roguelike, that means that permadeath is a thing, and I've left that default option switched on, so when this character dies, I guess we just could start playing a new one? But let's be positive. I'm going to be an optimist. Let's make a little bit of a called shot here. We're going to call our character Blonq the Unkillable. And maybe that means that we'll just be playing this game forever. Loading, loading, loading. Here we go. Let's dive into some lore. On the 12th of Ia-Ut, you arrive at the oasis hamlet of Joppa, along the far rim of Mograyi, the Great Salt Desert. All around you, moisture farmers tend to groves of viridian watervine. There are huts wrought from rock salt and brine stalk. On the horizon, Quds jungles strangle chrome steeples and rusted archways to the earth. Further and beyond, the fabled spindle rises above the fray and pierces the cloud-ribboned sky. I really, really dig the kind of evocative, kind of cheesy, but also awesome style of writing in this. I also appreciate how succinct it is in managing to evoke so much in just a few short paragraphs. So here we are in the game itself. You can see this little icon down the bottom that's jiggling backwards and forwards is Blonq the Unkillable. That's us. Oh, kitty. You may have also noticed that the game is operating on a tick. So every time I move, everything else in the world also takes a move. We're going to say hello to the cat. You pet Testifus for good luck. That's a real mouthful. Testifus says, meow. You start to glow. That might be quite handy at night time. I don't believe it lasts very long, but I guess now we're glowing in the dark. Testifus is doing some soft growling, and we're going to say live and drink. So there are a few quest givers that we have around the world here at the beginning. Let's go and talk to them now. Just as a note, there are a whole bunch of keyboard inputs here. This game is pretty much played entirely with a keyboard. I'm running with the laptop defaults at the moment, which take a little bit of getting used to, but they haven't steered me too wrong yet. So you press C to chat to people, you select a direction, and now we're talking to Mehmet, who is a watervine farmer, I guess, much like me. Mehmet says, live and drink, friend. May you find shade in Joppa. Mehmet, what can you tell me about Joppa? You would be wise to speak with Elder Iridad. Look for his hut to the north. Mehmet, I am in search of work. Some critters are eating our watervine. Farouk claims he saw one slinking around a vine patch. Ugly little thing, he says. Pale white, 8 legs, and ear-splitting whine. I noticed a bit of red dirt in the watervine pool, the same we find in the soil at a nearby cave to the north we call Red Rock. Travel to Red Rock and kill as many of these critters as you can. Bring back the corpse of one too. Elder Iridad will reward your efforts. Shall we tell Mehmet to shove off? I think we might accept the quest. Mehmet, I will do as you ask. We have received a new quest. What's eating the water vine? Alright, now I have played this a number of times before, so I know where the other quest is. Let's go over and have a chat. To Argive, mumbling. Tensile strength of Reblon, but lacking in dino elasticity. Retro-threading the M-band would probably... Oh, I didn't notice you there. That's because I was ignoring you. Noting a trace yield of synthetic linseed solvent. So I'm going to ellipses with style. And Argive says, unexpected deviation from the clank constant. Must you disturb me? What are you, some sort of treasure hunter? At the very least, make yourself useful and bring me a knick-knack from one of the caves. I may reward you. Argive, where can I find such a cave? There are caves everywhere, you dolt. This is Quud. Try the rust wells just east of here. Argive, I will return with your knick-knack. We have received a new quest. Fetch Argive a knick-knack. Okie dokie. So with some characters that you start with, we would already have one or possibly even more knickknacks in our inventory. But we haven't started with a character that has a bunch of sort of techie stuff because we're just a humble water vine farmer. Let's open our inventory and see what we have. 20 vine wafers and 2 witchwood bark for food, 18 unburnt torches, 2 empty water skins, and 1 water skin with 32 drams of fresh water. Now you may notice in some of the dialogue here where people are saying things like live and drink. Fresh water is very important in this game. Not only is something that you have to drink so that you don't die, but it's also the in-world currency. So you find yourself having to strike this balance between I need water to not die, I need water to spend on equipment, I need space to carry this water around, and the water itself takes up inventory and takes up weight, which means that you can't carry an infinite amount of it around with you. So you see down the bottom right hand corner, total weight 44 of 267 pounds. Let's go and have a talk with Elder Iridad. Now, Elder Iridad doesn't really give us a quest at this point, but in terms of a lore dump, oh boy, does he deliver. Elder Iridad. Live and drink, wayfarer. Welcome to the Oasis of Joppa. Here you will find shade and victual, along with other provisions to help you better scour the rust caves for treasure. Above all else, you may drink of our fresh water and quench your thirst. Elder Iridad, what can you tell me about Joppa? Joppa is an oasis hamlet nestled between the eastern reaches of the Great Salt Pans and the jungles of Quud. We are a community of water vine farmers. These groves lie among some of the few tracts of land tame enough to grow water vine. It's a little bit of a Monty Python reference there. Elder Iridad, what can you tell me about Quud? Quud is a strange and terrifying mesa to the northeast. Her tainted rivers breathe life in all its motley forms. Her poisoned jungles shelter priceless relics of a forgotten past. But that is just the half of it, for Quud's most precious treasures, and her most hideous children, lie within the innumerable chrome caverns beneath the scarlet loam. To ply those silver hollows, a spry adventurer's dream. The years have wizened me beyond such foolish ambitions, but you be not deterred so. My thanks, Elder. Live and drink. Now over to the east. There's always a statue to some form of temple or deity. We're going to press the semicolon button to go into look mode. Here we see Blonq the Unkillable. It's you, /me, /us. Equipped a lacquered woven tunic, Iron Vine Reaper, Farmer's Token, lit torch blazing, and icy vapor, which will be rising from our freezing hands. We're also phosphorescent thanks to Testifus the cat. Now if we move the cursor up, we're going to see a shrine to Shashir II, Mirror in Scarlet. The shrine depicts a significant event from the life of the ancient Sultan Shashir II. In 512, Shashir II won a decisive victory against the combined forces of the charm-worshipping district of Tushan at the bloody Battle of Shupir Morass. Though he lost his prized Prismica during the course of the conflict, as a result of the battle, Shupir Morass was so devastated by torrential glass storms that it was renamed Prismatic Ruin. This shrine is in perfect condition. If I hit the spacebar, it may give us another quest. You discover the location of the Tushan Charm Quadrangle. You note the location of the Tushan Charm Quadrangle in the Locations Historic Site section of your journal. We have received a new quest. Visit the Tushan Charm Quadrangle. You have received a new quest. Recover Prismica. Prismica rolls off the tongue easier. We'll go with that. You note this piece of information in the Sultan Histories Shashir II section of your journal. So, at the end of all of that, let's talk about procedural story generation. There's a lot of random seed stuff happening here in terms of maps and in terms of enemy locations and loot drops. That also extends to in-game history and the details of how lots of nouns and lots of verbs bounce off of one another, rub into each other, and are used to generate quests. So we found a bunch of things that we can go and visit on the world map. Let's zoom out to the world map now using the minus key. So, Caves of Qud has exactly the same overworld map every time you play it. The actual details of how each of these particular squares is laid out when you zoom into them is part of what the seed generates. And when I say zoom in on each of the squares, one of the squares on this map does not equate to only a single screen of the zoomed in version. It can contain multiples. Now we're going to go into look mode here, and if we move over this way, we can see the Tushan Charm Quadrangle, which we just discovered the location of. There's a small triangle in the top right hand corner of that particular world square, if you know what to look for. So here we are in the village of Joppa, and a little bit to the north is Red Rock. This is where one of the quests we were given is. And then a little bit further over to the east here, we can see 3 Rust Wells, which is a place that Argive suggested that we go to try to find some knickknacks. We're just going to start heading north to Red Rock once we get moving. But before we do that, I'm just going to zoom back in. Exit from look mode, zoom back in. And we're going to head down to the south here and go into this building because this is where we have the merchant, Tam, Dromad Merchant. Welcome, human. What do you desire? Tam, what kind of creature are you? I am Dromad Human, a Salt Strider. Now if we press the T button or the Tab button, we're going to go into the trade window. So here we can see our inventory over on the right hand side and Tam Dromad Merchant's inventory over on the left. There are many things that we could potentially purchase. So there's actually some quite good things in here compared to what you see sometimes. That is in fact one of the most juicy looking set of items that I can recall seeing in the early game. These 2 weird artifacts here would count as knickknacks for us to take to Argive, but they're going to cost quite a lot of money and we won't be able to afford them. Balances in trades are made up for from either the merchant side or your side by offering fresh water. Similarly, if you're selling a bunch of items and you're going to get a bunch of fresh water for the trade, you must have enough empty water skins to be able to carry the water, otherwise the trade doesn't go ahead. Now I just realised that while we looked at the inventory, we didn't look at what we had equipped, so let's have a look now. A lacquered woven tunic. That's going to give us 1 armor and 2 dodge. Armor being the blue diamond, dodge being the grey circle. We have so many arms and legs with all those extra limbs and hands and feet. Now that's interesting. I'd wonder what was going to happen here. Only one of our sets of hands are freezing hands, which means that the other set of hands we should be able to equip some gloves on, which normally you can't do if you only have one set of hands. The floating nearby slot down the bottom here, eventually one of the things that you can find in the game is a floating glow sphere that generates a pool of light, so you don't have to carry around torches in the dark. Now, one of the cool things about having so many hands is that we are going to be able to carry plenty of torches, but I don't think we're going to need 2 of them. And lacquered also means that it's an item that can't rust, which is important because there are a number of creatures in the game that can rust items, and there's nothing worse than losing a really, really good item to rust. So Iron Vine Reaper, 4 penetration value and 1d3 damage. There's no actual dice being rolled here other than virtual ones. Okay, let's try a trade. The main thing that I think I want to grab here is a whole bunch of wooden arrows and a bow. Oh, there is a bow. There is one. Excellent. Are we going to be able to afford that? 74 drams of water. What do I have to sell? Pretty much nothing. That's a drag. All right. It shouldn't take us too long to find a bow. All those prices are super high because my ego value is not very good. But I guess I brought that on myself. But if we have a good batch of arrows that we can use if and when we get to it, that would be good. Taking a little bit of extra food is probably also an excellent idea. Ooh, a glow sphere. Nice. Can't afford it right now. And I have an axe proficiency, but I don't really want to grab any extras. Oh, that would be so good. A carbide battle axe. But we're just going to go with that. We're going to have to pony up 13 drams of fresh water to even up the trade. That sounds good to me. Let's just check our inventory. We have a little bit extra food, which makes me feel a bit more comfortable. We have plenty of arrows for when we find a bow. And we still have 19 drams of fresh water. Alright. So at this stage, we are primed and ready to head out and begin our adventuring. However, looking at my recording clock here, I think that's probably going to do it for the first part of this Let's Play video. So let's call it and take a break here, and we will return soon with more of the ironic adventures of Blonq the Unkillable.